All right, so as you can see, I'm not here today, and I won't be here for a couple weeks because the birth of my daughter. So you guys still gotta do work though. So I'm gonna kind of guide you guys through what you guys are gonna have to do. Tomorrow, you guys will still have your end of module test. So what we have here is a couple review problems that you guys can use as studying for the test. There's gonna be some problems that look exactly like you see right here on the do now. So what I'm gonna have you guys do is spend a few minutes working on these if you haven't already, and then we can have some of you guys share your answers. So that's when I could, right here I can just have your sub pause the video. So then I'll just walk you through. I'll walk you through what you guys, or how you guys would try to do these problems, which we should have already done together as a class. It's just more practice. And again, these couple problems I'll have you guys work on, you guys need to write down, or maybe put a star here. This is what you guys need to study for your test, as long as that end of module practice that you guys have already worked on. So you're studying this as well as the end of module practice, which I'll go over in a little bit. So right here, what we learned that is when we have a negative outside parentheses, remember that it distributes to everything, all the terms inside. So what that does is it turns everything inside to the opposite. So right here, the 7 now becomes a negative 7. And then the negative 11 becomes a positive 11. And from there, we just do negative 7 plus 11 like we normally do. And from there, you should get 4, because you do the bigger one, take away the smaller one. 11 take away 7 is 4. And take the sign of the bigger one. For number 2, these ones are a little more tricky because we have a subtraction problem inside the parentheses, right? Just like what we've been doing all year, our last few weeks. We want to rewrite our subtraction problems as adding the opposite, adding its additive inverse. So we know that right here, negative 6 subtract 4 is the same as adding negative 4. So you see how I only did that for this problem because it was a subtraction problem inside parentheses, while the other one was already an addition, so we didn't have to do that. So then once it's an addition problem inside the parentheses, right here. It's an ugly arrow. Let's fix that. It's a little bit better. All right, forget it. So this negative outside the parentheses, again, it distributes to everything on the inside. That negative 6 now becomes a positive 6. And that negative 4 becomes a positive 4. And again, the plus sign, the operation, it still stays the same. Just got plus, so there we go. Basically, this is just 6 plus 4, which gets you 10. And for the third one, pretty similar to the second one, except it has a fraction. Here, we see that it's a subtraction problem inside the parentheses, right? So we gotta rewrite that as adding its opposite. So here, still got that negative in front. Remember, the first number stays the same for now. We know that subtracting negative 1/3 is the same as adding positive 1/3. So we got that. So again, first step is rewrite as an addition problem. And then what we can see, we do the same thing we did for the other two. That negative outside the parentheses distributes and turns everything inside to its opposite. So here, the opposite of negative 8 will turn to positive 8, and that 1/3 turns into negative 1/3. And then basically we get to a problem where we've done it a bunch of times. Right there, 8 plus negative 1/3 should get you 7 and 2/3. And it's positive because here this positive number is bigger than, or has a bigger absolute value than the negative number. And if you're not sure how to get that, remember I could just rewrite 8 as 7 and 3/3 plus negative 1/3 So that makes 2/3. And you still got that 7. You don't have to show that out. If you could do this part in your head, that's perfectly fine. But for those of you who maybe weren't sure how we got that answer, that's kind of how. So yeah, you guys gotta make sure you guys know how to do these type of problems. There's gonna be 3 of these problems on your test. So look at these, make sure you know how to do it. Maybe you can cover up the answer, try to do it again when you're at home. Just make sure you get that same answer so you get a good feel for it. Alright, so another problem like this will also be on your end of module test. So let's see. Alright, this problem right here, I'm gonna give you guys a few minutes to work on that. Try to keep in mind the strategies and the rules that we talked about the last few days. And we'll go over it in a little bit. Alright, so just remember, first of all, your order of operations, PEMDAS. What that tells us that is before I can add anything, I have to either multiply or do all my multiplication and division. So right there, that plus, we can't do that till the very end because everything else is multiplying or dividing, right? So right here, there's a couple ways you could do that problem, and I think we've talked about that before. The best way I like to do it is I could break up that mixed number into a whole number and a fraction. We know that -2 plus -1/3 makes -2 1/3. And I'll still keep that 18 in front. Then we put a plus 1/6. Actually, let's do that part first. We could kind of think of this as 2 separate problems. This is one, and then do this other side after that, and whatever we get here and whatever we get there, we just add it at the end. But let's slowly work our way there. So here, I can distribute that 18, multiply with everything inside the parentheses. I'll draw the arrows like this. Looks a little less confusing. 18 times -2 is -36. 18 times -1/3. Right there, by now you guys should know that if I'm multiplying by 1/3, we know that's pretty much the same thing as dividing by 3. 18 divided by 3 is 6. But since it's a positive 18 divided by or multiplied by -1/3, you know we should get -6. So for that, we should get -42. All right, so then now we're going to handle this other side. All right, over here on this other side, first of all, remember we know that dividing by -11, I'll draw a line down the middle, kind of showing that it's kind of 2 separate problems. Not really, but you can kind of see it as that way. Times 25. That dividing by -11 is, remember, dividing by a number is multiplying by its reciprocal. So it's like -1/11. Times 22. And times -24. Sometimes I write the X or the dot. It's the same thing. Ideally, it should probably all be the dot, but that's fine. From here, we can multiply straight across from left to right, but remember, try to pick your numbers on which one will be better and which one will make the problem a lot easier. See which ones can kind of go together well. Because right here, if you look at the 1/6 times -24, remember that's like -24 divided by 6. Or if you even do it to the side out, we're really just doing -24 over 6, which gets us -4. So those two gets us -4. And right here, I could do the -1/11 times 22. Just 22 over 11, which gets us 2. But it's a negative times a positive, so it should get a -2. And right there, we still got the 25. So here I could do -4 times 2 is +8. Times 25 gets us 200. So here, back, remember that plus sign at the beginning? Now we got to add -42 plus 200. Remember, that's really just 200 take away 42. So 200 take away 40 is 160. Take away another 2 gets you 158. So 158 should be your answer for that one. So what I would suggest you guys do to study for it is you guys watch this video over at home. If you still weren't sure when you watched it the first time, you guys should be able to have the YouTube link on my channel. Subscribe, like, all that stuff. That was a joke. So, well, actually, I do want you guys to subscribe so you guys can see these videos. So you watch them again. Make sure each step that I did, make sure you kind of understand it also, so that you guys can replicate it or do it on your own on that test. And that should be it. On the next video, I'll record myself going over the end of module practice. So watch that one next.